Hello, and welcome to a very special episode of Laptop Retrospective. If you ask a person what distinguishes a ThinkPad from other laptops, there are a variety of answers that you will get. Some will highlight the track point, the black cigar bento box design, their military standard testing, their fantastic keyboards, and overall reliability. There was a time, however, where there was one additional and very iconic feature that was copied but never surpassed. This is the story of the ThinkLight. The design of the ThinkLight started with the creation of the I-series line of ThinkPads. The goal, according to David Hill, was to create a ThinkPad with broader consumer appeal. When I sat down with David Hill last year to talk about the design of the ThinkPad X300, the ThinkLight ultimately came up in our conversation, and he shared with me the story of its creation.
The whole ThinkLight thing came from, at the time that we developed that, there was a product in the market called the Itty Bitty Booklight. And it was kind of it was like a clothespin. You could clothespin on the top edge of a book, and it had a little gooseneck with a light bulb, not an LED, but in a flashlight battery, and you could read a book like in a dark environment. And I was flying back from Japan, oddly enough, on an international flight in the middle of the night. And I needed to work on my ThinkPad, but I didn't want to turn on my overhead light because then everybody on the plane hates you. And I looked over at this guy next to me, and he had one of those itty bitty book lights. And I thought to myself, well, there you go. Why don't we just build something like that in? And I went back to the office, and I contacted Tom Takahashi, I think it was at the time. No, it was Kazuhiko Yamazaki. And I said, here's what I want to do. I need a prototype of this. So they made a prototype. And I talked to the general manager of ThinkPad at the time, Adalio Sanchez, and told him we had invented this thing. And he was like very, very skeptical. He was like, come on, how can that possibly work? And why does anybody care? And come on, I explained the whole thing. I said, follow me. You got a few minutes? So he came down to the design lab, and I took him into a closet with this prototype. And I put it in front of him, and I said, all right, now I'm going to turn off the lights. So I turned off the lights, and I turned on the ThinkLight. And he looked at it, and he said, I think he said, Jesus Christ, this thing is incredible. We're doing it. And that was it. I was like, well, okay. You couldn't believe it. I mean, it worked. It resonates with like a human need. And so I thought I was going to have to put on this big speech about, this isn't just about feeds and speeds. This is about human emotion. And he's like, hey, stop. You get me sold. I'm done. Let's get out of here. Put the lights back on. And that was it.
While originally it was planned to have a dedicated switch to activate the ThinkLight, it was decided to turn it on and off with an infamous keyboard shortcut. The keyboard shortcut was decided by using keys that were easy to find in the dark when the ThinkLight would be needed most. Once the ThinkLight launched on the I-series, it was quickly adopted across the entire lineup, with some machines like the W700 and W701, as well as their dual-screen variants featuring two ThinkLights. Lastly, in November of 2009, there was a leak of a picture of a Lenovo T410S that had two ThinkLights at the top of the display. This was never released. Matt Kohut wrote an article in 2006 called Typing in the Dark for Lenovo's now-defunct design blog, where he explained some of the most common suggestions regarding the ThinkLight. These suggestions included marketing it better because no one knew about it, eliminating it and illuminate the keyboard from underneath instead, or make it a different color. While the ThinkLight might not have been the most well-marketed item, the ThinkPad team did explore different colors of ThinkLight. Red was briefly considered, according to Kohut, but was quickly dismissed as it has connotations related to danger. Green was also considered, but was too closely related to film darkrooms at the time. Amber was actually tried on the production models of the R and Z series, but it was not well received. While amber might have been easier on the eyes in some situations, David Hill remembers the main driving force for the amber color on select models.
At IBM, for so many years, it was like IBM was slowly turning off the hot water in the shower, hoping nobody would notice. And it was kind of rewarding to get back in this thing where we were like, you could take the gloves off, and actually, come out swinging on this. Like, I don't know, for instance, we had to dumb down the ThinkLight to save some money and made it amber for a while. I hated that. And so on the X300, it's not an amber ThinkLight. It's a white LED.
Oh, yeah. Like the ThinkLight is still one of my favorite features.
Well, it is mine too. I led the whole thing. There's a whole story behind it.
Yeah, I love it on my X220, which is actually just off screen, that I've been using to record notes for this entire project. It's my at-home, do-everything computer, and that ThinkLight it's just brilliant. It's simple and it's brilliant.
I still prefer it to a internally illuminated keyboard. I'll be honest with you.
Whenever I introduce someone to an older ThinkPad and show them the ThinkLight, the reaction is often the same. Amazement that such a thing existed, and a puzzled look as to why it isn't still around. Not only does the ThinkLight illuminate the keyboard, but it also sheds light on your workspace and allows you to see other objects in your immediate area, a feat not achievable with a backlit keyboard. Several different prototypes of ThinkLight were worked on and included an ultraviolet LED that would illuminate special paint on the keyboard, but this never saw production. David Hill also fondly remembers another prototype ThinkLight design that was never released.
And in fact, we were working on a version which has never seen the light of day, if you'll pardon the pun, but had two LEDs in the top edge of the screen. One to the far left, one to the far right, and they kind of hit the keyboard at like angles, and there's no shadows. And we made a prototype of it, and it's fantastic. And it's very cheap. But the world all sort of went to this internally illuminated stuff, and I don't know. I have mixed opinions.
Backlit keyboards became more popular in the eyes of the general public, and consumers bought laptops equipped with them. This unfortunately left little interest in the ThinkLight. The last major era of machines that carried the ThinkLight also carried the backlit keyboards that were becoming popular in the industry. For example, the X230 or T430 can be equipped with both the ThinkLight and the backlit keyboard. The ThinkPad X1, the next laptop in line after the X300, would be the first ThinkPad to phase out the ThinkLight in exchange exclusively for the backlit keyboard. It is unlikely that the ThinkLight will return, and even if it did, where would it live on a modern ThinkPad is an important question to consider. If there was a way to do it, however, the ThinkPad team would find it. But people's appetite for this kind of illumination has probably long since passed.